A deadbolt and a few inches of wood are the only things separating a predictable night from whatever might be wandering outside. In most cases, we accept that barrier as a calculated risk, but that sense of security is easily dismantled. A refrigeration repairman traveling through northern Pennsylvania found himself in a town where more buildings were empty than occupied. He was there to service a supermarket's walk-in freezers, an assignment that required a 3-night stay at a motel on the edge of town. The woman at the front desk gave him a warning that felt strangely casual for a hospitality business. She told him to ignore any knocks on his door at night, attributing the potential disturbance to drifters looking for money. Before reaching his room, he passed a dark green pickup truck idling in the lot with its headlights off. The man behind the wheel sat perfectly still, hands gripped at 10 and 2, refusing to look at the worker as he walked by. In a desolate parking lot far from the main road, geographic isolation removes the safety net of the public. This setting transforms a standard business trip into a fishbowl, where a lone traveler can be watched without the observer ever being noticed. Late that first night, the worker watched a shadow through his peephole. A figure in a baseball cap was crouched low to avoid detection, while the sound of metal lightly scraping against the door lock echoed through the room. The harassment escalated on the second night. After 11 p.m., the green pickup returned to the edge of the lot. As the worker lay in the dark, he heard a fingernail or a tool slowly dragging down the exterior glass of his window. While he was on the phone with 911, the empty room next door was suddenly unlocked from the outside. He heard a heavy impact against the shared wall, and seconds later, his own frosted bathroom window slid open. When police arrived, they found fresh pry marks on his truck and the neighboring door. An officer privately confirmed that this specific motel had seen 2 similar incidents in the previous 6 months, both involving men staying alone for work. While checking the room before fleeing, the worker found a scrap of newspaper shoved under the bed near the wall. On the back, someone had handwritten his room number and his truck's license plate. The presence of his plate and room number on that note confirmed a level of preparation that went beyond a crime of opportunity. By tracking his vehicle and securing access to the adjacent unit, the group had orchestrated the entire breach before he even unpacked his tools. Familiar neighborhoods often provide a false sense of security. A woman learned this after matching with a man named Killian on Tinder. His messages quickly turned possessive and threatening, leading her to block him, an action she assumed would end the interaction. Digital blocks offer no protection against physical stalking. Weeks later, after being dropped off at 1 a.m., she was walking up the alleyway toward her house when a man stepped out of the shadows and called her name. Killian had found her address without her ever providing it. He slammed her head into the brick wall and began to choke her, demanding to know who she had been out with. He maintained a terrifying lack of emotion, even as she gasped for air on the wet pavement. The attack only stopped because Killian had to catch the last bus of the night. He left her on the ground and ran, leaving her with a police-issued panic button and the knowledge that his intention, according to investigators, had been to kill her. Online obsession does not stay confined to a screen. It bleeds into physical spaces, turning a victim's own neighborhood into a deadly choke point where the rules of digital safety no longer apply. The wilderness offers the ultimate isolation. Seeking a break from work stress, a solo camper headed into the Smoky Mountains, choosing a remote trailhead where no other cars were parked. At dusk, a man appeared at the edge of his firelight. He stood perfectly motionless and asked if the camper was out there alone. The camper lied, claiming friends were on their way, which seemed to prompt the stranger to retreat into the trees. The man didn't leave. Throughout the night, footsteps circled the tent. At one point, the camper heard the sound of slow human exhaling right against the thin nylon fabric, the sound of someone standing perfectly still, watching and listening. At dawn, the camper heard multiple people running off into the woods. He fled to his car, but when he returned later that day, his entire campsite had been erased. His tent, sleeping bag, and supplies were gone, leaving only a circle of cold ash. By separating himself from society, the camper entered an arena where his own isolation became the predator's greatest advantage. In the wilderness, there are no witnesses and no accountability for those who wait in the dark. These three locations, a motel, a dark, narrow alleyway, and an isolated forest, are distinct, but the threats within them are the same. The monsters in these stories didn't rely on the supernatural. They possessed entirely human faces. They weaponize our desire to be polite, our reliance on technology, and our need for isolation. They wait for the moment we are most vulnerable, turning our environments into traps. Surviving the encounter is only the first step. The true nightmare is the realization that once you have been targeted, the darkness is always watching.